The day we buried my mother, the world felt strangely quiet. After everyone left, I stayed behind in the old house alone. Every room carried her memory. Every corner felt heavier than before. I walked slowly through the living room, trying to keep myself busy. The silence was overwhelming. Then something caught my attention. Near the fireplace, I noticed a loose brick. I had seen that fireplace thousands of times growing up, but somehow I had never noticed it before. Curious, I knelt down and carefully pulled the brick free. Behind it was a yellow envelope. My heart immediately started racing. There was something written on the front. My name, not Emily, not the nickname my mother always used. My full legal name. Suddenly, I felt a strange knot forming in my stomach. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. The first sentence changed everything. If you're reading this, then I ran out of time. The man you call Dad is not your father. I froze. I read the words again, and again. Nothing made sense. The room felt smaller. The air felt heavier. For 26 years, I believed I knew who I was. Now, in a single sentence, my entire life felt uncertain. Then I noticed there was another page inside the envelope. Attached to it was an old photograph. I slowly pulled it out. The picture showed a man I had never seen before. I stared at his face, searching for answers. But all I felt was confusion. Who was he? And why had my mother hidden this secret for so many years? At that moment, I realized my mother's death wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. I stared at the photograph for what felt like hours. The man looked familiar, yet I knew I had never met him before. My eyes moved back to my mother's letter. There was another sentence beneath the photograph. If anything happens to me before I tell you the truth, find him. He deserves to know you exist. I couldn't breathe for a second. He deserves to know I exist. What did that even mean? My hands were shaking. For 26 years, I thought my life was built on truth. Now every memory felt different. I turned the photograph over. On the back was an address in Chicago, and beneath it was a date. 22 years ago. I barely slept that night. The next morning I started searching through my mother's belongings, hoping to find answers. Instead, I found even more questions. Hidden inside the back of her closet was a small wooden box. It was locked. For a moment, I just stared at it. Then, I noticed something taped underneath the shelf. A tiny key. My pulse quickened. Slowly, I unlocked the box. Inside were dozens of letters, neatly stacked, carefully preserved. Every single one was addressed to me. I couldn't understand it. Why had I never seen them before? Why had they been hidden? I picked up the oldest letter. The envelope was worn with age. My heart pounded as I looked at the sender's name. It was the same man from the photograph. The man my mother wanted me to find. I carefully opened the envelope. The paper inside was yellow with age. Then I read the first line. My dearest daughter. I felt the world stop around me, because in that moment, I realized the stranger in the photograph might not be a stranger at all. My breath caught in my throat. I opened the letter carefully and began to read. The date at the top was more than 20 years old. My dearest daughter, if you're reading this, it means I never got the chance to be part of your life. Not because I didn't want to, but because I wasn't allowed to. I felt tears filling my eyes. I opened another letter, then another, and another. Each one told the same heartbreaking story. He had never forgotten me. He had written on my birthdays. He had written at Christmas. He had written during important moments of my life, moments he could only imagine from far away. For years, he tried to reach me. For years, he hoped he would someday meet me. But none of those letters had ever reached me. I sat there for hours, reading every word. The man in the photograph wasn't a stranger. He was my father. At the bottom of the final envelope, I found a recent address. A week later, I stood outside a small house in Chicago. My heart was racing. Part of me wanted answers. Another part of me was terrified of what would happen next. I walked up to the front door and knocked. A few seconds later, the door opened. The man from the photograph stood in front of me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he looked into my eyes. His expression changed instantly. It was as if he already knew. Emily, he whispered. I nodded. Tears filled his eyes. And suddenly, tears filled mine too. After all these years, after all the secrets and unanswered questions, we were finally standing face to face. Then he handed me one last letter. It was from my mother. I opened it carefully. The message was short. I made mistakes. I was afraid. But you deserved the truth, and he deserved his daughter. Please forgive me. I read those words again and again. For years, I believed I had lost my mother forever. But standing there, I realized she had left me one final gift. The truth about who I was, the truth about where I came from, and the chance to meet the father I never knew existed. For the first time in my life, everything finally made sense. Some truths arrive late, but sometimes, they arrive exactly when we need them most.